Welcome back to the Halftime Show on 1470 WTTR. McDaniel taking on Gettysburg. I'm once again Luke Stilson, McDaniel College Sports Information Director. Joining me for a chat a few minutes right now, Tracy Davis, senior catcher on the reigning conference champion softball team. Tracy, thanks for some time.
No problem. Thank you, Luke.
I'm going to start where I always like to start in these interviews. Why McDaniel?
Coach Phil found me, and I came to the campus, and I just kind of loved it and took it from there. And I love the softball team, and I like their work ethic and everything else, so just worked out that way.
All right. Let's rewind everyone's mind back to last spring. Let's set May aside for a minute. Let's focus on the regular season for the softball year. Take everyone through some of the things that led to last season throughout the entire year.
The one thing that stands out in my mind the most, we had great team chemistry, which is extremely important. We had great leaders and all around just a great team. Everyone gave 100% in the season during fall ball and during regular season. So just started off very well, and we kept the motivation and kept going.
One of the big pieces of that season last year was then freshman Caroline Brem, pitcher. Came right in, huge season, big strikeout numbers. You were behind the plate for her for most of the season, so you kind of experienced her firsthand. So what made her such a special pitcher?
She was very motivated, very go-getter, had a lot of goals that she wanted to achieve, and she had the support of the whole team. So with all the backup, she just really was able to succeed and pretty much do what she did best.
All right, Luke Stilson joined by Tracy Davis at halftime at McDaniel and Gettysburg, 1470 WTTR, WTTR.com. I said we'd set May aside for a minute. Let's come back now to May. We'll start with Conference Championship weekend, and then we'll move forward from there. Conference Championship weekend, home. Got the top seed home team, really kind of went through the weekend kind of in dominating fashion. So talk about the Conference Championship weekend and then winning the Conference Championship on your own field.
The whole thing was pretty amazing, just being on our field. The whole thing was great. We dominated the whole time, which was awesome. I think that gave us motivation to continue throughout going into regionals also, but I think we all just wanted it bad enough, and everyone just stepped up to the plate and was ready to play.
One of the things I think that kind of gets lost up to this point in the season, when we're at Conference Championship weekend, with the dominating as Caroline was in the circle, 300 and whatever strikeouts she had last year, and a couple no-hitters, was the offense really clicked at times too last year. I know Conference Championship weekend smacked the ball around. During the regular season, there were some big offensive days. Talk about the key to the offense kind of helping Caroline out and scoring the runs when needed and adding just top to bottom, the lineup was solid at the plate.
We were pretty set up. Coach Phil really works with us with our hitting, so that was great. We also had great hitting leaders that were very good influences on the whole team. We all backed each other up, and we just kept our bats going when we needed them. Sometimes if one person would fall and wasn't able to get a hit, somebody else would come right behind them and pick up what they left off, so it just kept going.
Absolutely. Now let's fast forward ahead. We talked about championship weekend. We talked about winning the championship on our own field. We go ahead a week now to regional play, and really probably arguably the hardest draw. We got 8th seed in what was probably the hardest regional. Let's talk about the mindset going into regionals. When we saw the draw, you saw who we had to play and what was ahead.
Well, I just remember sitting in the lobby watching our draw, and everyone just kind of had a gasp. We knew it was going to be a tough one going in 8th seed also. We went in with a good mindset, though. We dominated our conference, so we were just trying to carry that on over and do what we did best and work hard. So going into regionals, we just kind of wanted to see where we'd actually finish up. We just wanted to make it fun because it was something new for all of us.
Absolutely. Get down to CNU. First day, it's raining. Practice day, get down there, it's raining. Inside, so you're not on the field. So we come ahead to Thursday. And first game out in the regional is McDaniel versus number 1 Emory. Green Terror take a lead in that game. And then obviously Emory comes back and wins the game. Talk about the Emory game a little bit and that game as the first NCAA tournament experience for the entire team.
Well, that game was tough for all of us. Like you said, after not being able to practice on the field, we were just kind of thrown into it, but we adapted very well. we just have a little trouble getting our bats going, but it was a tough game, and we played really hard. And once we started continuing through regionals, we looked back and said, if we did this, we could have beat them. We could have started out better. We could have done this. But, I mean, that set us up. We knew it wasn't going to be a walk in the park. We were going to have to really work for it.
Absolutely. Now we go to day 2. We go to Friday, and this is where the fun really starts. We get to the Messiah game. Messiah scheduled to be a doubleheader here during the year. That game gets washed out with all the April reschedulings. That game goes 10 innings. I'm looking at the box score. Caroline has 11 strikeouts. 0-0 going to the bottom of the 10th, 2 outs. You come to the bat. Take us through coming into the dugout, going into the bottom of the 10th, and then the bottom of the 10th.
Coming into the dugout, I think all of us was just ready for the game to be ended. Someone was just needing to step up and get the game finished. So we went in. I talked to Caroline about pitching, of course, the usual, and everyone was so exhausted by this point, and everyone started getting hits, but then they just didn't work out the way it wanted to. So then we ended up getting 2 outs, and then I was up. So I went up to bat and had 2 strikes on me, and that's when I hit my home run.
That's a 10-inning game. That's a win. It's a win over Messiah. It's a big win. It avoids the 2 in barbecue, as they like to say. But little did we know at that point what was coming the rest of the weekend. So we go to Saturday. The Ferrum game goes 14 innings. You're behind the plate, I guess, basically half of that game, if I remember correctly. Talk about that game, that long game, that really just throwing the entire tournament schedule into complete disarray at that point. Let's talk about that game, just and the length of it, the fact that there was a couple times where we had bases loaded, we just couldn't get that hit to get ahead.
Well, after the Messiah game the day before, I think all of us was still a little tired. Extra inning games is always exhausting. So once we started going into the 14th inning, I think everyone was just completely tired of it. And I think the whole commissions board during that time where we threw everything off was a little frustrated with us also. But going into that, it was frustrating because we did have so many opportunities to score, but we all held in there. We all wanted to win it, and just the way that we kept carrying on. So we just really fought through it and got some good hits and strung something together, and Caroline pitched the whole entire game, and everyone just gave 100%, never gave up, which was awesome. So we came back and ended up winning.
20 strikeouts for Caroline in that game. Just an amazing game to be a part of, and I think that's the point where some of the talk about this McDaniel team is for real was starting around the stadium in CNU. Saturday was supposed to be a 2-game day if we after the win against Ferrum, but everything got thrown off because of that 14-inning game. So Salisbury game gets pushed to Sunday morning, second game out Sunday is the McDaniel-Salisbury game. That game is one of those you're coming off 24 innings in the last 2 days. Let's talk about that Salisbury game and kind of the mindset going into that game.
Basically, after we had miraculous wins over the last 2 games, we were all like, okay, we're here to stay. Let's show them what we really have now. We caught people's attention. People were interested in us. Who is McDaniel? Finally figured out what we were all about. So going into that game, we were very motivated to try to win this game as well. And I guess the pressure was kind of on us that we really wanted to keep going in this tournament. Where we made it that far, we might as well kept going. So that game was a very long game for us also. We really had to fight for it, and eventually we just set it up right at the end of the game, and Amy Bumgardner hit her grand slam, which was amazing. It was very fairy tale-like that we just made it that far.
I was going to focus a little bit on that bottom of the 7th. I'm sitting behind and at that point, bottom of the 7th, as the inning is going along, there's Christopher Newport fans in front of me and behind me who are really starting to get behind McDaniel. Lauren Fusco comes up, fouls off a bunch of pitches, load the bases. Amy comes up after her, fouls off a bunch of pitches. I think it might have been the 10th pitch of her bat before she finally goes yard. Talk about just watching that at bat and watching the ball then clear the right field fence.
the whole thing, I was actually up to bat also. I was on base. I was on third base when Amy hit it. So, and just watching the whole thing unfold just from like the first bat to that last bat, you could see everyone wanted it. They fought for it. They weren't going to go down. They weren't going to be that person to give up the last out. And it was really amazing to see that, like Lauren getting her hit and getting on base. Like everything was awesome, how everyone set it up. And then Amy just hitting that, it was just unreal. No one would have ever expected that.
No, 2 home runs last year for Amy, 2 grand slams. And then the tournament wraps up later in that. Come back after that emotional win, you got to play Christopher Newport. Let's talk about bouncing back on that game, even though it ended up being a loss. Having some chances in that game, though, as well.
That game was tough. As we said, this whole tournament was just very exhausting for us, but we kept fighting for it. Christopher Newport is a very good team, so we knew it was going to be a tough game to begin with. But everyone gave 100%. There was a few glitches, but we fought through that, and we were very close, and we pretty much gave it a good run. We knew either way if we lost that game or not, or won, we came to do what we wanted to do, and people know who we are now.
Let's wrap this up on 2 notes. We'll wrap up on a later. We'll go to a lighter note, and then we'll actually let's back up. Let's talk a little bit about this year and just kind of giving people a little bit of a sneak peek into fall ball and getting ready for that title defense.
Fall ball's looking very well. We're practicing really hard. I see a lot of good things, just the people we brought in. We did lose our captain seniors, which was a big aspect of our team, but I feel like we'll be able to fill the holes very well and hopefully keep the tradition going and just keep it up.
Let's end here on a lighter note as we finish up the halftime interview here on 1470 WTTR, WTTR.com. I'm looking at your bio form, and one of the questions always on the bio form is unusual or funny stories. I'm just going to read this word for word, and then I want to let you respond. Last year, our several trip to Virginia at the beginning of the season, I was chosen to bargain with Coach Phil to get ice cream for the team after dinner. It was a long process, but we finally got ice cream.
Well, our team loves ice cream, so immediately, as soon as we had already ate dinner also, so everyone was completely full, but then the thought popped in our head, like, what if we could get ice cream? So for some reason, I was sent to bargain with Coach Phil about getting ice cream. And it was a very long process because I made several trips down to his side of the table, back to our side, saying, okay, well, if we eat ice cream, we don't get breakfast. And just like bargaining back and forth. But at the end of the day, we finally got it, so.
And that ended up being a recurring theme throughout the season. I know we took a couple trips to Cold Stone on the trip to CNU. Tracy, thanks for helping us walk down memory lane last year and reliving what was a captivating week and culminating a fantastic season. Thanks for the time.
Thank you very much.
You're listening to Central Maryland Sports Leader, 1470 WTTR and WTTR.com. It's halftime in McDaniel and Gettysburg. Back to the battlefield with Charlie and John to break down the first half. Get you ready for the second half right after this.